everyone. I'm going to be covering Honchkrow and Murkrow right now, and these guys are super cool. First things first, I want to talk about what they suffered from. So Honchkrow is infamously slow. Obviously 71 base speed is terribly slow, but given what it was supposed to be, it just came off as extremely slow. And obviously it did have the saving grace in Sucker Punch, but at the end of the day, it still was extremely slow. And so Moxie is a huge, what am I trying to say here? Moxie and its new ability in Ruthless, which is a reworked version of Sniper. Oh, I also have to add him to the sheet right there. Hold on. It's incredible for him because it gives him a large boost, as well as allowing him to bypass stuff like Intimidate, because the crits, you know, when you crit, you ignore attack drops. So, before I talk about that, though, I want to talk about their stats. So, yeah, Honchkrow is way faster. He is a pretty big crow, and so I feel as if a higher speed stat is justified given that he can fly and stuff. So 101 base speed is excellent. That outspeeds base 100, obviously, and that is a very good tool for him. If you look at these speed tier guides, you can always see how they stack up currently against the Pokemon in the hack. You know, and if you are slow, you can always just run, you know, Scarf or Agility for boosting your speed as well. Or, like, you can run speed support with your teammate, like Webs or something. And that'll be a lot easier to use, but 101's base speed is great on its own. Large HP decrease, because in this hack, HP is based much more on the size, and this is a 3-foot tall bird that isn't even really that fat. He just has puffy, like, chests, because that's what I forget what it's called on birds, but there's a word for it. A lot of birds have that. A dewlap, or is that lizards? I think that's lizards. Is dewlap. I don't know, but they have like a big fluffy puppy chest thing, and they puff themselves out to look all intimidating and stuff. Speaking of, if you're wondering why it doesn't have Intimidate, because it is a pretty fitting ability as well. That is because Mandibuzz will be having the ability Intimidate. So obviously those are two dark flying types, and I don't want to give them any overlap, so they will have different abilities. And stat distribution and whatnot, with Honchkrow being much more offensive and Mandibuzz being more defensive, but still having some offensive utility and being pretty strong. Just not nearly as strong as Honchkrow is. So that's the big drop, is the HP. However, they did get a giant boost in their defenses, so that way they have equal 71, 71, 71. So overall, I'd say they're about the same bulk, maybe even more bulky than they used to be, honestly. Or about the same, which means that, you know, they're not taking any great hits. They're average at best. Slightly frail, but not actually frail. They're more just like an average bulky Pokemon. They're not very bulky, but they can run bulk if they have to. Like if you wanted to, for a specific battle, to run a bulky set, you can always do that, especially with access to infinite EV training items and ability capsules and stuff. You can always customize your sets really nicely. So that being said, Murkrow, so I also had to drop the special attack significantly to make room for the speed boost and the defense boosts, and still keep them at a reasonable base stat total for what they are, because 550 doesn't really fit for these guys in my opinion. Also, them being mixed doesn't fit that well anyways. However, they are still mixed because of the ability Ruthless. They can actually take great advantage of the moves Aero Blast, Razor Wind, and Heat Wave, which will always crit, but I will talk about those when I talk about Ruthless. So you have Prankster, and Prankster becomes Moxie when you evolve, and then Super Luck becomes Ruthless when you evolve. So I like the way that dichotomy works, you know, in terms of their vibes that they give off. Murkrow is much faster and slightly bulkier, but in reality, the main buff is just speed and the move pool. And also, it has some nice stuff to abuse with Super Luck, like Air Cutter has a +1 crit rate, so that'll crit half the time with Super Luck. And then you have Fury Swipes and Fury Pecks, which hit multiple times, and those will crit nicely with Super Luck. And then if you do choose to use a Violate Murkrow, I don't know why. I mean, I think it's made mostly for a Prankster if you wanted to use a Violate Murkrow, but you can also use Prankster Murkrow. Sorry, a Super Luck Murkrow with the crit moves that Honchkrow gets, the 50% crit moves. And Murkrow can actually run like Choice Band or Life Orb on those, and it'll still crit because of the way Super Luck works, because I'm not going to cover Ruthless. So these new moves, all right? Not new moves, but well, actually one of them is new in Laceration and Jagged Edge, but the rest of them are all old moves that have been reworked to become 70 base power, 5 PP, 100% accurate, and they have a 50% critical hit rate. And so that means, oh, that should be critical hit. I just noticed that, not critical rate. Surprised nobody noticed that before. So you can really take advantage of a lot of these moves as Honchkrow and Murkrow, obviously more so Honchkrow though. Take a sip of my drink real quick. So you do have a lot of awesome stuff, like basically with your 50% critting moves, if you hold a Sculpt Lens, you will always crit. So if you give your Honchkrow a Sculpt Lens, it'll crit all of these moves. It'll crit Drill Peck, Night Slash, Laceration, and Cycle Cut and Slash. Cycle Cut and Laceration are very good coverage, especially Laceration for hit fairies and whatnot. And then you have Drill Peck and Night Slash for your dual stab moves, and those go from 70 base power to 105 when they crit. And then if you have the ability Ruthless equipped, you will be having 158 base power moves on those guys. And of course, these moves are still viable on Moxie sets because they are still strong with the Scope Lens. They do bypass Intimidate, they bypass Stat Boost, and they are a solid 105 base power. The only downside is you have to hold a Scope Lens for them to be consistent. Otherwise, they're very inconsistent, and they go from, half the time they're only 70 base power, so it's kind of a little roll of the dice there if you're not using that with a Scope Lens. And then later on, so actually early on, you get access to First Impression via TM. First Impression is 60 base power, but will always crit, so that becomes 90 base power, but with Ruthless, it becomes 135 base power, and you don't have to run Scope Lens. So for all of these 100% hit crit rate moves, you don't need to run Scope Lens with them. They'll always crit no matter what. So you can always run different items with these. First Impression is something awesome that you can teach via TM over and over again. You also have access to Sky Attack via Tutor, which is extremely powerful. So Sky Attack and Razor Wind are both 120 base power, but again, they always crit. So those are 180 base power, but with Ruthless, they become 270 base power. So they are some insane nukes. Sky Attack via Tutor is great to have for specific cases, and then Razor Wind via level up at level 39 is very early, given that you have an 86 base special attack stat, which is significantly lower than your attack stat. I wanted to give them the Ruthless flying type and other moves much earlier. So I gave them Razor Wind very early, and then they get Sky Attack via Tutor in the mid-40s, which is awesome. And then you get access to Finishing Blow at 50, which is a 35 base power move that, again, always crits, so that's 53 base power, but with Ruthless, that becomes 79 base power. So you have a 79 base power move with Ruthless, or if you're using Moxie, you still keep the the lower 53 base power. However, with Moxie and Finishing Blow, it makes a great combination because Finishing Blow and Moxie, essentially you'll be getting a +3 attack boost when you kill something with Finishing Blow. It's from Felstinger, if that wasn't clear. And then after you get that +3 attack boost, you're getting another +1 attack boost from Moxie. So that is incredible right there. Truly awesome to use. Finishing Blow, obviously it is lower power and it's not the best coverage, but Bug type coverage is pretty solid, especially with the buffs, because Bug is no longer resisted by Bug is no longer resisted by Fairy, Fighting, and Ghost, which is nice for bug moves. And then lastly, your most impressive Ruthless options are your stab ones, and also Heat Wave for coverage. So Heat Wave via Tutor in Ula Ula Island is great. That is 65 base power, but with Ruthless that becomes 128 or something? 148.6. Oh my god, I'm off. I don't know why I said 128. I think I'm thinking of a Psychic Fang Strongjaw. Yeah, I don't know why I mix those up. Yeah, 146 base power is huge with Heat Wave, and obviously you are coming off of a 86 base special attack stat. However, you do have access to Nasty Plot and Calm Mind for setup, and you have some pretty solid coverage, especially such as like Sludge Bomb and Psychic, which is nice. And then, of course, Heat Wave is very valuable. You actually don't get Fire-type coverage on the physical side, but you do get Fire-type coverage specially, so that's excellent. And again, you can run Specs Ruthless Heat Wave with 86 base special attack. Yeah, it's pretty low, but it's not terrible. And again, with the Specs boost, you're hitting really, really hard. Meanwhile, with your 50% crit moves, you have to run a Scope Lens to be consistent. And then your only stab Ruthless options that aren't 50% crit on the physical side is Wicked Blow at level 70, which, dear God, Wicked Blow is insanely powerful. It is stab, it is 100, well, actually it's 80 base power, but then if you consider Ruthless, it goes from 80 base power to 180 base power. So that is incredibly powerful. The only downside or drawback is that it has 90% accuracy. However, you can always slap a Wide Lens on your Honchkrow, and that will never miss because Wide Lens gives a 15% accuracy boost now. So that's at level 70. That's only for the League and a couple of it's for the League, for the post game, and then for like a couple maybe Hapu and Gladion before you get to the League. Maybe like Mina's Trial at most. So you're not going to be having that for most of the game, but again, once you get it, it's extremely powerful. And of course, Night Slash alone is very powerful. Wicked Blow is more of just an upgrade, or not even an upgrade necessarily, because it is inaccurate and has less PP. Actually, sorry, it has the same PP. But that's awesome. And then you also have Aeroblast pretty early on at level 45, and that is the same as Heat Wave but flying type. Heat Wave and Aeroblast are both 95% accuracy, so that's the only drawback. And they also are 10 PP, so you can really abuse those specs. Special Aeroblast and Heat Wave sets are great with Ruthless. So that's your Ruthless options. All right. Ruthless is great. It, of course, ignores Intimidate, and it is just a really, really powerful option coming off of 125 base attack and 86 base special attack. And with 101 speed, it's great. However, you do have access to Ruthless. Sorry, I misspeaking. You have access to Moxie as well, and Moxie is obviously a really good ability as well. Moxie allows you to snowball sweep very easily. Because of your speed stats and your move pool, you have access to dual stab priority. Especially you have Night Burst and Gust, which is not the greatest, but it's nice for Murkrow early game if you want those. But then, of course, you get 55 base power plus 2 priority Aerial Ace. And then Sucker Punch is 75 base power and plus 2 priority. So Sucker Punch and Aerial Ace, you have dual stab plus 2 priority moves. So you can kind of spam those if you want with Moxie. You have Swords Dance and Bulk Up, both of which are great setup moves on Honchkrow for Moxie sets. And then at level 65, you get access to Power Trip. So not only does Finishing Blow work amazing with Power Trip and Moxie, but Power Trip itself is incredible because the way Power Trip works is it's 3 PP. However, you now get a +1 attack boost each time you click it. So say you have a Swords Dance up, or you have a Bulk Up and a Moxie boost already. Or let's say you're fighting a Pokemon, you get a Bulk Up set up, and then you click Sucker Punch and knock them out, and then you get a Moxie boost, or you click Finishing Blow. The point is, no matter what, your Power Trip is going to be extremely powerful, and it's going to keep gaining power, and it's going to make you stronger each time. The only downside is it only has 3 PP, not 3P, 3 PP. But that is obviously for balancing reasons, because otherwise you could sweep every single team with all of these Power Trip Pokemon. It's a very powerful move. So 3 PP is very fair. You can kill half an entire team and get +3 attack from using this move. So it's extremely great and powerful with Moxie. It's also good with Ruthless, but mostly with Moxie. Not that you can't, like, the good thing about your abilities is that they aren't mutually exclusive, so you can always just switch when you need it and not have to really tweak your moveset that much, if at all, because you can still use Night Slash, Drill Peck, Psycho Cut, Laceration, Wicked Blow, those kinds of moves. You can still abuse those really nicely with Moxie. And you just don't get the Ruthless boost. So Ruthless is an immediate 50% choice band boost, essentially, on those moves, while Moxie is, a more of a long-term type deal. And of course, that works great with Scarf as well. Like I said, with Wide Lens, you can also take advantage of Dive Bomb with Wide Lens. Dive Bomb is flying type high jump kick, so that is a great flying stab option. You also have Brave Bird at 55, which is a 125 base power move now, and that only deals 25% recoil, and it has I believe a 30% chance to drop defense now, which is a nice additional effect. So that's all awesome stuff. You also have great coverage in the form of, like I said, especially you do have Burning Malice, Heat Wave, Focus Blast, Psychic, Shadow Ball. Well, Shadow Ball's not really good coverage in a Dark type, but it's just there because they had it already. Icy Wind, really good coverage overall. Sludge Bomb, if I didn't say that already. And you have your nice dual stab options again, Aeroblast and Heat Wave being some of your best special moves, and Razor Wind as well. And then, of course, you get great physical moves. So they did lack in the physical department. Superpower is a great option post-game, which drops your attack stat by 2, but if you use that with Ruthless, you will actually be, you can use, like, for example, Superpower or Twilight Cannon, I should cover actually. So Twilight Cannon is a 150 base power move that drops both of your offensive stats by 2. Reason being, the animation comes from Photon Geyser, and Photon Geyser has a hard-coded effect where it always uses your highest attacking stat, so that's what Twilight Cannon does. So Twilight Cannon, if you come look at the stream, not the stream, but the video, if you are a listener, which is no problem, I do the same thing. You can see it here. It will drop your offensive stats by 2, and that means that with Ruthless, you kind of bypass that. So most of the time, you're going to be using your physical attack for Twilight Cannon because again, it's using your higher stat. So unless you have like a modest 0 attack IV, max special attack, 0 minimum attack, you're probably, even then I don't even know if you would be able to get it. Actually, let me check. I'm pretty sure you still wouldn't be able to do it with your physical attack, but let me check. I might be wrong. Modest, come on, really? Can I just, thank you. 0 and 0. Okay, you actually do. Oh yeah, you're much higher. So actually, it's not that hard to get physical, even if you have max IVs and a neutral nature. Neutral nature doesn't work anymore. So if you have a neutral nature you can't get special Twilight Cannon, but otherwise you can. And special Twilight Cannon, if you can manage to get that, say for example, if you have a plus special attack nature, you can get special Twilight Cannon, and that is amazing because you can use that, and then you can spam Stab, Arrow Blast, and Heat Wave for coverage. So you get a 150 base power Dark move, and then you can click that twice in a row for 225 base power, and then you can proceed to click, what am I trying to say? And then you can proceed to click stuff like Arrow Blast and Heat Wave, which will bypass your -4 at that point special attack stat. So that's awesome. And of course that works physically as well, and much easier. That works physically with moves like Drill Peck and Wicked Blow and stuff and Night Slash. So you can use Twilight Cannon both ways. It's a great move on Honchkrow with the crits. It's also a great move in general to have, but it's especially great on these crit moves. What else is here? You do have other good coverage moves, so like other good stab moves. So like I said, Brave Bird and Dive Bomb. You also have Dual Wing Beat, which is 90 base power overall, 45 base power per hit, and has a 27% flinch rate overall. If you do the math, it has good. Acrobatics is nice. I already covered Air Lace, and you have some good stuff early game. So that's really awesome. And then of course you also have coverage like Close Combat and Takedown and Play Rough. So Play Rough and Takedown are both 110 base power recoil moves that deal 20% recoil. And then Close Combat is obviously Close Combat, and that's a great coverage move as well. Agility is great as well on Honchkrow. You can use that with Moxie if you want, or Tailwind. Tailwind not being less permanent, but it does support your teammates, so it's up to you and what you need at that time. And that's that for Honchkrow. So Honchkrow is excellent. As for Murkrow, Murkrow is technically a Violet viable. It does evolve with a gem, so you're not going to have to try to evolve at every level. If you do prefer Murkrow over Honchkrow, that is an option for you. I would say Honchkrow is obviously kind of better, but Murkrow does have a lot of utility, and it's kind of bulky with a Violet, not really, but it's decently bulky. Like it can maybe take some hits if you invest in your bulk with the Violet. It's not terrible. But the main use of Murkrow is Prankster. Despite having 106 base speed, there is still a lot of faster Pokemon, so having that Prankster is really useful. Early game, you have a lot of really good utility. You have Torment and Encore. You have Leer, which is -2 defense now. You have Confide, which is -1 to both their special stats. You have Feather Dance. You have Topsy-Turvy and Swagger and Flatter. Topsy-Turvy is amazing for totems and just for reverse sweeping. Not reverse sweeping, but stopping sweeps. So say something is snowballed in front of you and it's super, super strong in front of you. You can always just click Topsy-Turvy with Prankster and reverse their stat changes. And then a funny little meme strategy you can do is Swagger or Flatter plus Topsy-Turvy. It's not the greatest in the world, but Flatter is pretty okay because it does it does +2 special attack. So you can click Flatter and then Topsy-Turvy after. It's kind of a waste of 2 move slots. One, you would rather just run Topsy-Turvy, but it is there. For example, maybe versus Totem Lurantis, you could take advantage of that. That would be pretty good. Or like one of Olivia's Pokemon or something, but you wouldn't keep it for that long. You also have good stab like Beat Up and Punishment, which are both solid moves against totems or other circumstances. Mirror Move, Z Mirror Move will give you +2 attack, which is nice, and then it'll also, of course, copy the move. You have other good utility like Will-O-Wisp and Parting Shots with Prankster, which is great. Prankster Parting Shot on Will-O-Wisp is amazing. And then you also can use like Prankster Calm Mind sets on Murkrow if you want, like Prankster Calm Mind Violet. That's actually pretty viable with like Roost. You can totally use that if you want. Because with the Violet and the Calm Mind boost, you will be actually relatively tanky after one Calm Mind, and you're going to get that first. So it's kind of cool. It's not the greatest thing in the world. Obviously, you're probably going to want to evolve your Murkrow, but for people who prefer Murkrow, or if you do have a specific team composition to where it's like, okay, wait, Prankster is actually really, really good for my team or something, or if you just prefer to play that way, you can totally use it. I just, it's not that bulky, and Honchkrow is so much stronger, so you really are gonna be biased toward choosing Honchkrow. So there are a lot of Violet viable Pokemon. Most of them are actually very viable and genuinely like hard to choose whether or not to evolve. But in Murkrow's case, it's kind of it's one-sided, but that's just the nature of the Pokemon. You also have like stuff like U-Turn and Lunge for coverage, Poison Jab, Sludge Bomb, and Gunk Shot, which is nice for fairies. Yeah, I think I covered about everything, honestly. I'm just gonna skim through one more time. I don't think I missed anything more. So that's amazing. Yeah, tons of great stuff here. It's really, really fun Pokemon to use. Super, super strong, super useful, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you subscribe if you listen this far. It would help because it helps boost the algorithm if I get more subs and more likes and more comments. So if you did find this type of thing interesting or you found it appealing, you can also join my Discord server and you can see updates of the hack in there, and you can talk to me in there if you want to, and other people. So yeah, I really do appreciate everybody for listening, and I hope this was informative, so thank you.